Where did we find our good deals in fantasy baseball drafts? Fred and I are going to do a deep dive and find out. Stay tuned. Listen to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Jeff Erickson here with Fred Zinkie. As always, we are brought to you by the good folks from Prize Picks, where you can go use the RotoWire Picks tool to do well and go use that code RotoPod for a first deposit match up to $100. And also by So Rare. You'll hear more from both of them later on in the show. Fred, we're going to start off with some news at the top of it here. JT Realmuto out on the IL after having a torn meniscus surgery on his knee, and he's been playing through this for a while now.
Yeah, so it looks like what I'm reading is it's not going to be season ending, but they don't think, but he is going to miss a significant amount of time. So, well, let's dive into the fantasy aspect of this. Do you keep JT Realmuto on your roster?
I think until we find out a little bit more about the length, then
Yeah.
I think you absolutely have to. But I also think that we are in a case here where, I mean, it could be something much bigger. And I think this is also a nice little reminder that, hey, there's a reason why I only had 3 stolen base attempts this year. And, you know, that takes away strips away a good chunk of his value if Realmuto is not running.
Oh, absolutely. Like without that, I'm not even sure. Well, I guess he's a top tier catcher. Like I guess like he's on pace for close to 20. Actually, not really. Like he's on pace to close to 20 homers. It's okay. He's not. I think he's actually a second tier catcher if he's not running, which he hasn't been.
So in single catcher leagues, you might be looking at a drop here.
Oh, I think in single catcher leagues, it's a definite drop. Like in single catcher leagues, you can get, just to give people some examples, I'll pull up our Yahoo friends and family, but like you can get a pretty decent, you can stream too. Like you can look at guys who are going to Coors, guys who are facing the White Sox. Like you can do a lot of things in single catcher leagues. I think he's an easy drop in those. Like unless you have waiver wire spots, right? IL spots that are just empty. But yeah, I think so. It's the 2 catcher leagues, and it'll depend on, like I was trying to think, if he's going to miss half the season, like would you, if he's going to miss half of the remainder of the season, like, would you hold him for the other half? I guess so.
The problem is, like, say if you're in a 2 catcher league and it's half the season, say let's just go 12 team league, just to, I think more people are doing that than they are the main event or similar type leagues. Kind of pull up like who might be available. I'll pull up my 12 teamer, the beat Jeff Erickson. The best catchers available are Wilson Contreras, hurt himself,
starting a rehab assignment. We'll be back soon.
Travis d'Arnaud losing playing time now that Sean Murphy is back.
Not good.
Jose Trevino, Gary Sanchez, Corey Lee. These are your best available catchers in a 12 teamer right now.
Yeah, and obviously the 15 teams even a lot worse. I mean, Corey Lee does have 9 like homers plus steals. He's got 9, 5 and 1 for the other. That's not bad. That's better than Realmuto. He's got 8.
The 4 stolen bases is the thing that would surprise most people there.
Yeah, his average is kind of sinking. Gary Sanchez has 7 home runs, same as Realmuto. Like he's obviously not Realmuto, but like power, you wouldn't lose the power. So, well, you're gonna have to. Well, wait a minute. First of all, you're gonna have to pick up one of these guys.
Right.
The decision is more: are you going to stash Realmuto versus having
an
extra bench hitter or whatever?
That's actually a really good point.
The 1 catcher league, I just looked quickly in Yahoo. Like Connor Wong is available in way over half leagues. He's hitting 329 with 5 homers and 3 steals.
You've missed the best of Connor Wong, though. It's kind of like it's like if you picked up Luis Matos after his 16 RBI week, then you missed on everything there.
You probably did, but Elias Diaz, who you can stream like at home and such, hitting 303, 5 homers, 28 RBIs. Like there's guys.
Diaz got hurt yesterday too, by the way.
Yeah, he did. He's listed as day-to-day right now. There's other guys.
Diaz missed the game yesterday. It was a bad day for Diaz catchers.
Yes, bad day for catchers in general. But
yes,
yeah, there's other guys like in a single catcher league. Shea Langoliers, 12 homers. I know the batting average is terrible, but again, you could stream him in favorable series. Jonah Himes there, he's got 31 RBIs. Like easy drop, I think in those leagues. the 2 catcher leagues, and you're not getting anything from the Phillies. Garrett Stubbs looks like he's going to be their primary catcher. He's hitting 173 with no home runs. So, like, he's not an option. Those other guys, like you just mentioned, are more the options. In 15-team leagues, it's almost, it's pretty barren. Like what you would pick up for. Well, you're gonna pick up someone. I just picked up Freddie Fermin in a league not long ago. At least he's hitting for average.
Yeah,
It's
the
not really doing
Phillies
anything else.
themselves are going to have to go with Garrett Stubbs and Rafael Marchand.
Yeah.
One has made his debut in 2021, but really he's been bouncing at AAA since 2021 also. So, he actually made his debut in 2020. I misspoke. We last saw him in the majors in 2021.
Okay.
I think that 2020, everything that happened that year was weird because of the COVID. And, you can recall guys from certain levels, but not others. But I don't view Marchand as a prospect. Maybe I could be proven wrong. He actually had a pretty good year last year at AAA at Lehigh Valley. This year, though, he wasn't hitting 694 OPS before the call. I'm curious, if it's half the season, what do the Phillies do? How do they go and add another catcher? That's
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. Like, will they? Well, again, I think it just really depends. If it's half the season, we're talking about him coming back right after the trade deadline. They probably just wait and just deal with a hole in their lineup. They're doing really well as a team. These other catchers can hopefully be fine defensively, and they'll just wait. If it was going to be longer than that, then maybe the Phillies would go out and trade for a catcher. Francisco Alvarez, I mentioned this just before we started recording. He's back. So for people who have been stashing in a trading league, so since I like to think creatively, in a trading league, if I had Realmuto, there's probably angles I could take. Like, there may be someone who has Francisco Alvarez who also has 2 decent catchers because they were streaming or working the spot, right, while Alvarez was on the IL. And maybe they stumbled onto someone who's doing okay. Maybe they stumbled onto Connor Wong or something like that because they needed catchers earlier in the season. So they started going aggressively after them. And maybe now they'll have an extra catcher, right? Maybe they have Shea Langoliers or something like that. So in a trading league, you might be able to make actually, I can tell a good trading league catcher story. Many, many years ago, remember the Buster Posey injury, which was just a little earlier than this time of year when he broke his leg at home plate.
Yes, the rule change injury.
The rule change injury. So I had him on my Tout Wars team. And the best move I made by far that year was after he got hurt. I made a super small trade for AJ Pierzynski, who was like not special and, on pace for his usual like 10 home runs but a good batting average. And instead of taking a 0 at the catcher spot from someone off waivers, I traded like a not a very good pitcher or something for AJ Pierzynski because somebody had him on their bench. They had an extra catcher.
Okay.
And I was like, what are you going to do with AJ Pierzynski? Like, you already have 2 other catchers. Can I give you just like a useful streaming type starter for him or something? It was something like that. Again, it's like 10 years ago. I don't remember the exact deal, but anyways, I ended up winning the league that year. And that trade was like huge. The league was really close in the end. And that trade was huge because Pierzynski, the rest of the way, he just gave me like probably what was worth like a $5 catcher or something like that instead of a 0 or maybe even $- catcher the rest of the way. So if you're in a trading league, it's like, I think that's the way to go. Like, see if you can find someone with an extra catcher and get one of them. And just the small deals. I don't even write about small deals with Yahoo because they're not eye catching, right? So
those are the ones. Those are the bread of life in fantasy, though.
They are, and people don't think of them. And it was one of the times where like when Posey got hurt and my team was doing pretty well, but it wasn't certainly. I don't think it was in first place, but I was like, okay, this is huge. Like, it's a $20-something catcher I bought, and now he's out for the year. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to just take 0s at catcher. And I went out and made this little deal that, like I said, like I made a lot of trades that season, but that one was one of the smallest and maybe, in my opinion, the most significant.
Let's talk Mets. Francisco Alvarez, as you alluded to, is back. They activated him from the IL today. And you got to figure he's going to get a lot of play. I know Luis Torrens was the hero the other day on Sunday in London, but Torrens was just recently added to the roster too. Alvarez is going to be the guy that they got to play a lot. What sort of value are you putting on Alvarez rest of season?
I was not super high on Alvarez during draft season. I'm just not totally sure what the batting average is going to look like. And even before he got hurt this year. It was 236, which actually okay, but it came with a 300 BABIP. I don't know if he can maintain a 300 BABIP. So
Right.
in this environment, so like I'm not super high on him. Like I think he's going to be a bit of a Shea Langoliers. Langoliers hitting 199. Like
Yeah.
Alvarez can probably do better than 199. That being said, his career average is 212.
He hit
So
209 last year. I mean, it's
yeah,
obviously in the range of outcomes.
yeah.
I don't have
So
any of them either. Even despite the 25 homers, I mean, I'd rather have him than Bo Naylor, but we still can't find a way to replace Bo Naylor on our main event team. Every week we try to bid on these like jabroni catchers, and we get outbid on them. It's really pathetic.
Bo Naylor is hitting 170 with a 506 OPS, and this week you're going to compete with the Realmuto owner to try to see who can get whatever the treat of the week catcher is.
Someone had dropped Mitch Garver, and we put a token bid on him.
Oh.
But Dave McDonald bought him for 38. I wasn't even close to that. Again,
I would have paid a bit for Mitch Garver.
I would too, and I should have bid more than we did, but I don't know if I would have gone 38. Kudos to them for doing that. Dave and his buddy Tony, who run the team together there. They're smart players. This is twice now they've stymied us in the free agent market. They got Yimi Garcia, and that's looking better and better. Although Romano just started throwing, maybe there's still hope there, but I don't think so. I think Yimi might hold the job even after Romano returns, but we'll see. But it's just every week I can't get a better catcher than both stinking Naylor, and it's really annoying to me because and it's hard to find somebody out there, and you keep streaming. I don't know, man. Travis d'Arnaud, I guess, was available. I could have List picked up Travis d'Arnaud. I think a part-time Travis d'Arnaud would have been better than Bo Naylor. I think that was something that we may need to bid on next time. Is like just even look at that.
Yeah, I dropped Naylor in the one league where I had him about 3 weeks ago, and I picked up Gary Sanchez. And I don't think Gary Sanchez is anything special at all.
Right.
Like, I don't think better days are coming for Gary Sanchez or anything. I just thought he doesn't actually play that much, which means that he won't hurt your batting average that much. Just mathematically, he won't accumulate that many at-bats. But he's got 7 homers. This is Gary Sanchez. This is what he does. Like, he will probably hit 17 home runs this year, something like that. And he'll probably have 50 something RBI. Like, he's not going to be good. He'll probably have 50 RBIs. The Brewers offense is decent. So, maybe 50 RBIs, 40 runs, 35 runs. He's not good, but I was just like, I can't do this Bo Naylor thing anymore. I saw the playing time slipping away. He wasn't contributing anything. I was like, at least Gary Sanchez could maybe hit me like a home run every second week or something like that. Maybe
Alejandro Kirk is available. Christian Vasquez is available. Kirk homered yesterday.
Yeah. I know. The only run that pathetic offense could score yesterday.
So sad. It's just
Kirk
so
is
sad.
I don't know. Kirk at
Carson
least
Kelly is available.
I can't pick up Kirk. Carson Kelly, yeah, that's not very good.
Freddie Fermin is available. These are guys. I'm desperate. I just want to get a catcher.
Freddie Fermin, at least, like I said, is at least hitting for a high average. Like for $1. Like you're just talking about $1. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm doing $1 catchers here, just trying to hit on something. In AL Tout Wars, I've got Naylor, and that's even worse there to have him there because you just know you're not going to improve on him there. But yeah, so it goes. The other Mets news is Edwin Diaz is coming back. He's coming back on Thursday, though, not today.
Okay, and then does he? I don't think he. Well, does he come back into the closer's role right away? I say no, but all he needs.
I say yes.
You say yes. I was going to say no, but he only needs a couple clean outings.
Because who's been good in his absence? Nobody.
That's right. It actually will be more about him. And do they want to introduce his initial outing to be like a pressureful save chance? I mean, I bet they would love it to be a 3-run lead, but if it's a 1-run lead, do they want to put him back there right away? Or do they want to just have him pitch the 7th inning once or twice? Either way, I think by next week, he's their closer again.
I read a little bit. Sorry.
I was going to say, as you said, Reed Garrett's kind of fallen apart.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing I read is that, Diaz, who didn't pitch last year, obviously got hurt in the World Baseball Classic, didn't pitch under the new rules, under the pitch clock last year. And that's been a struggle for him to adjust because a lot of people talked about closers struggling against that. So I don't know. Maybe it's a possibility. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess it's a possibility. Yeah, I guess it's possible. I don't know. We'll see. But I do think I do think, like you, that in a few days he'll get a chance to be their closer, and he could certainly bounce back. I actually mentioned this in our show notes, and I think it's like a bit of a comparable. Maybe it didn't go is this far south, but like Craig Kimbrell, who is super inconsistent, almost lost the Orioles closer's job right around the beginning of May, and then totally got his act back together and has allowed, I think I said, has not allowed an earned run in a month and has only allowed 3 base runners in a month. And obviously has converted all his saves in the last month and looks totally fine and is cruising again. And I'm not foolish. Craig Kimbrell could have another hiccup this year where he almost loses his
Will.
role.
He will.
Yeah, he
And
probably
then
will.
he'll bounce back again. That's what he
Right.
does.
Right. So like we see this, like with the relievers, the sample sizes are just so small. Like you look at Kimbrell's numbers, for example, this year, and you're like, come on, there's no way this guy was close to losing his job at one point. Like he's at a .99 whip, great strikeout rate. Even his walk rate's okay, like for Kimbrell. And so Diaz isn't that far off. Like he may not be that far off. Like just where we look back
Right.
and we're like, hey, remember when he was totally, totally useless in mid-May and late May and early June? And look at him now; he's totally fine. So I think that's a good possibility.
Wouldn't be the first time with Edwin Diaz.
Yeah,
Too.
exactly. He's been all Edwin Diaz is. I think maybe this isn't maybe discuss stuff, but he's been a bit all over the map at times in his career. Like he's had really good seasons,
With the
amazing
Mets.
seasons.
Yeah,
exactly. And he's had he's had good seasons, and then he's had really bad. He had the 5.59 ERA season. So 2021, even just a 3.45 ERA. It's good. It's not great. Like blew 6 saves that year. Like he's had great seasons, and then he's also had like bad seasons. He does go a little all over the place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're going to get into our topic du jour of finding like looking into who the mid and late round bargains have been so far and whether we learned anything from that. But first, quick note from our friends at So Rare. Your journey to the MLB All-Star Weekend starts at So Rare MLB. This June, join the action for a chance to win a VIP experience to the MLB All-Star Weekend 2024 by collecting digital trading cards and playing fantasy baseball. Participate in the All-Star Collection event by building collections of your favorite MLB teams and players. The grand prize is a VIP entrance at MLB All-Star Weekend, including a $1,000 travel voucher, tickets to the Home Run Derby, All-Star Game, Features Game, and more. It's free to enter. Every new sign-up gets one entry. Start collecting today. Plus, the June Chase competition offers $20,000 in total cash rewards and more chances to win an MLB All-Star VIP experience. These events run from June 10th to June 30th, so don't miss your chance to enjoy All-Star Weekend like never before. Play Sorare MLB today. I'm going to post a link in the chat for those of us that are streaming live. If you want to get a quick look at Sorare start playing right now, you can just click on the link here, and you guys can check out all that it is that goes with Sorare. And otherwise, if you're reading if you're just check out the episode description wherever you get your podcast. If you're listening after the fact too, you can check it out that way as well. All right, Fred. Let's talk a little bit about our topic du jour of best picks by round, starting in about round 10. We don't want to do anything in the first 9 rounds or so. You use the earned auction value calculator and kind of look at some of these at what did we miss? Is what's sustainable? Do you want to go backwards first, like round 30 and a 15 teamer, or do you want to start in round 10?
Let's go backwards. Let's start at the bottom.
Let's go crazy, folks.
Because those are the real winning picks.
All right.
It's interesting to see the dollar values on them going into this week.
All right. Very good. Okay. So round 30, best hitter value in round 30, the Orioles, Ryan O'Hearn. How often do you find a number 3 hitter on the best side of a platoon in an elite lineup in round 30? But that's what we found in Ryan O'Hearn.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's going to be some more examples as we go through the list of players like Ryan O'Hearn who are just so boring that nobody wants to draft them, right? Everybody's chasing a rookie. Everybody's chasing, maybe someone with a lot of potential, but's been hurt a lot or something. Ryan O'Hearn was just boring. Like he actually was successful with the Orioles last year, and they didn't make any effort to change his role on the team. And we just refused to believe maybe that Ryan O'Hearn, who, 801 OPS in his time with the Orioles last year, and we just refused to believe that he could do that again. And guess what? So far, he has done that again, 832 OPS. So far this year, he's having an even better, slightly better year than he did last year, almost a carbon copy. So I think maybe the lesson with Ryan O'Hearn is, and first of all, this does seem sustainable. I mean, maybe they replace him at some point with a prospect, but I talk about Orioles prospects as much as anyone. They're not replacing a guy with an 800 OPS.
Yeah.
That's not happening. Like the prospect's probably not going to do any better than that.
By the way, the pitcher version of round 30, and we're using NFBC main event ADP as our tracking to go along with the RotoWire earned auction value too. Fred did some work here.
A little bit of work. Yeah.
His teammate Cole Irvin, same sort of buzz. You know, boring guy, has a default spot almost in the rotation on a great team. Here he is as the most valuable pitcher in that round. I think in both cases there's a replacement risk. I think especially with Irvin, I think more so than with O'Hearn. But I will say this: boring does win fantasy championships all the time. Finding the guys that have the job but are undervalued. I mean, that can be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, looking back, Irvin's rotation spot, you can see why he lasted so long. Like at the time, Tyler Wells was healthy, Dean Kramer was healthy, John Means was supposed to be back like 3 weeks into the season, and you were like, okay, Irvin's probably not a starter really for them. But you get all those guys on the IL right now. Kramer should be back soon, but you get all these guys on the IL right now, and it looks like Irvin could at least sustain probably at least one of them coming back. You probably need at least two of them to come back before he gets bumped, or he needs one of them to come back and them to acquire a pitcher at the deadline, which I think is totally possible. But by the time that happens, another pitcher might be hurt. So he may just skate through. I really think the Orioles should acquire a pitcher at the deadline. I think that's probably their next step if they're going to make a playoff run, is one more really good starter. But Irvin may stick in that rotation all season. So really low upside, doesn't strike a lot of batters out, but it's just such a good team and good home ballpark.
All right. Round 29, Luis Garcia, the hitter version for the Nats, and Ronel Blanco for the Houston Astros. Ooh, Ronel Blanco. I mean, sometimes he was a pickup, and again, obviously, if they've got a round 29 ADP, they were a pickup in a lot of leagues too. Ronel Blanco is still at 5-2 at the 278 ERA. He did lose his last start, and since coming back from his suspension, he's only had 3 starts since then. Twice in the 2 of those 3 starts, he has given up 4 earned runs, 4.67 ERA, 104 WHIP. But we're talking 3 starts here. That could change with one good start. How sustainable are Garcia? Let's start with Blanco. How sustainable is he?
Yeah, I'm starting to worry that the wheels are going to come off. Like between just common sense here, connecting 1+1, like the suspension. You wondered when he came back if he would be as successful. His first start he was, but that's against Oakland, and then 2 bad starts in a row. One against the Twins, one against the the Cardinals. I'm worried. I'm worried that he won't be as successful going forward. So I'm not sure if by the end of the season he'll be the best pick from this round, but you certainly got what you got at the beginning of the year. A lot of walks. Lately, especially. His strikeout to walk rate is closing. I don't know. I'm not that optimistic. If I had to guess, Ronel Blanco ERA the rest of the way, I will say over 4.
Luis Garcia has also started to slow down already a little bit. 712 OPS right now.
Yeah.
Career OPS is 693. It's not really that far off. He's had some category juice. 8 for 8 on the base pass goes a long way. 5 homers in 54 games. That's a higher pace than he's usually has. But at the end of the day, his component numbers aren't super great.
Agreed. He's trending towards a cromulent, as you like to say, season, maybe a few more steals than we expected. Maybe he finishes with 12 or 13 home runs, but maybe he gets to 20 steals. That would save his fantasy value. Even if he doesn't, I had Luis Garcia on several teams. I felt like he was undervalued. I thought the lesson with Luis Garcia is we need to be a little bit careful of punishing players for things they do in the majors at an age when all of their peers are still in the minors.
Yeah.
He produced,
I think that's a great point,
poor results or mediocre results in the majors when he's 20, 21, 22. All of his peers are still he still just turned 24 a few weeks ago, and he's got 1,373 career at bats. So you got to give some of these guys a chance. If he just got called up right now for the first time ever, you'd be like, oh, 24, he got called up. Okay, that makes sense. Maybe this guy's got some potential. So I thought he could be a sneaky 15-15 guy. And I still do think he can be somewhere who doesn't hurt your batting average. So helps it a little bit. So I think he can still be somewhere in that range. But for sure, I don't see him as a big breakout. But I do think he can just kind of plod along here, playing time's available, and finish with something like the $7 player he is right now.
Hitters, not so many great values here. Michael Conforto being the best, but Brady Singer Pretty good value. Also special, a hat tip to Uncle Ted for chiming in with Matt Waldron. I think he went around here as well. Waldron has been really good lately too. He's a guy that's getting it done right now. But let's talk a little Brady Singer and the Royals.
Yeah, I mean, he's just part of this Royals team where the pitching has exceeded expectations. Everyone has really, but the pitching especially has exceeded expectations this year. And we don't really see any obvious signs of the wheels coming off. I guess if we do his last 2 starts, he's only got 5 strikeouts between them. He gave a home run in both of them. So I guess that would be a little bit of a sign. Like his last start was at Cleveland and it went poorly. But Cleveland's been a bit of a tough matchup for some pitchers this year. I don't know. I think his 2.76 ERA regresses, and it's probably more like a mid to high 3s the rest of the way. But I think this is someone who can just continue to be like a 6 or 7 starter in your lineup each week. Streamer sometimes if you don't like the matchup. I have him on one team where my pitching's gone fairly well, and I feel like I start him maybe like 2/3 of the weeks.
Yeah. And the Royals, I mean, that's been a key to their season is getting so many innings from their starting pitchers, getting better innings from them. Singer showed some signs earlier. Others maybe not as much, but this is a team to see if they can hold on. They're facing the Yankees and the Dodgers this week. Nice schedule, guys.
Before we leave Singer, I did also want to mention it's a good, like the old Ron Chandler, like once a player shows a skill or a level, he owns it. Like 2 years ago, Singer had a really nice year. Not an amazing year, but basically a strikeout per inning, good ratios. He regressed the following year. Like we shouldn't give up on, especially pitchers, players in general, but especially pitchers if they have a down year, because like once Springer showed us one level in 2022, like he's young, he can get back there.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's interesting to kind of. I like bringing in that Ron Chandler line for sure. I think Ron's got a lot of good maxims there. Read Ron's book, by the way, if you get a chance. It's Fantasy Expert. It's really great. Let's do one more round before we do our next read, and that's 2 Phillies in round 27. Brandon Marsh and Jeff Hoffman. Marsh is hurt now, though, unfortunately, and Hoffman, he has great stats, but how often has he been on your active lineup when he's earned them there? I've really had a hard time timing the market with Jeff Hoffman.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we'll see where it goes from here. Like you said, he does have great stats. I think he's someone you could just leave in your lineup in a 15 for sure. Like his ratios are so good. He gets plenty of strikeouts. Like he got 14 strikeouts in May and 15 in April. Like that's a pretty good, you times those out by 6 months, you're looking at a 90 strikeout pitcher. 3 saves last month. So close to a save a week. Doesn't have one yet this month though. Yeah, I think he's someone, it depends what your pitching looks like, but I think you could leave him in your lineup, which may allow you to, maybe his ratios are so helpful that he may allow you to be a little more aggressive with 2-start pitchers. And then I think Marsh is almost like an older version of Luis Garcia, where these guys who contribute across the board can sneak up on you quickly and just build like a bit of a sneaky value. Like last year, 12 homers, 10 steals. The year before, 11 and 10. This year, it looks like he's gonna be a little better than that. Like maybe he could be and he's supposed to be back really soon. Like maybe this year he could be around 15 in both homers and steals. Maybe even a little higher than that in steals. Batting average is not hurting, maybe helping a little bit. Like same as Luis Garcia. Like maybe like you're not special in any category, but if you can just be like 15-15 with a helpful batting average, like you're a nice 4th outfielder or something like that. Just another sign that we don't always in the bench rounds have to chase these guys with tremendous upside. Because, for example, I'm not seeing them as the best picks so far this year.
Yeah,
in the bench rounds, right?
There's a trend there. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Before we move on to another Philly in the next round, the 26th round, first, here's a quick note from our friends at Blue Wire. All right, folks, thanks for that. And we also got to share something from our friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in more than 30 states across the country. Prize Picks is really simple to play. I can make my picks and submit my entry in less than 60 seconds. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. You can use the RotoWire Picks tool to help you with that. And in fact, we now have the Picks tool in app form too. So you can just download it at the App Store, either on Apple or on Google Play. Get it on your phone, your iPad, your Android device there. Our tool really likes the less than 17.5 outs for Jesus Luzardo for the Marlins tonight at the Mets. Luzardo, we'll have to talk about him maybe as a possible trade target at some point in time. But we have it for a lot of different ways that you can go ahead and do that there. Even like esports, we have it covered there. It's pretty crazy there. So just jump in and use the RotoWire tool there, and you can play all these things on Prize Picks. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Download the app today and use code ROTOPOD for a first deposit match up to $100. That's promo code ROTOPOD for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy at Prize Picks. Big thanks to Prize Picks for sponsoring us. We're going to be talking about where we found some of our bargains, whether sustainable, and also whether there's any underlying trends. Fred, let's move on to the 26th round. Let's talk a little bit about Johan Rojas, another Philly who's been a bit of a bargain, and it comes pretty much from the stolen base category.
Yeah, round 26 was a big dud. So
yeah,
$4 for Johan Rojas, and then the pitcher $- for an Erick Cano.
I didn't even go there. I decided to
Why
skip
bother?
that.
Yeah, why bother? And for Cano was mostly maybe a couple games when Kimbrel was faltering. But anyways, Rojas, single category guy, is probably going to steal 30 to 35 bases this year, not help you anywhere else, potentially hurt you in batting average. I don't know. These one category late round speedsters, I had one share of Rojas and I cut him early in the season, and I don't regret it. And I just don't know in this heavier steals landscape, and then with power being down, I don't know if chasing the one category speedsters in the bench rounds is worthwhile. Like, I feel like they've got to be really good, like 45 steals to make it worthwhile. And I still don't know. I don't know. Like, we can get guys like Rojas basically off waivers early in the year in the last round of your draft, Jacob Young, players like that. I just don't know if these guys are worth chasing, or if you just grab them as you need them.
Yeah, I think that's probably the play. Grab them as you need them. But again, you're hoping to time the market. Like Jacob Young was amazing when he first got called up. Since cooled off, obviously, quite a bit. Same, Rojas is at least playing a little bit more regularly. But yeah, you want to see a little bit more oomph in his bat. I mean, it's sometimes just a matter of, okay, he's the healthy one. Same with, Marsh will be coming back eventually here, and when he does, I think he's a guy that I'd rather have over Rojas. We'll see what happens with the Phillies, though. I mean, they just lost Realmuto, as we talked about at the top of the show. And Nick Castellanos has been terrible, but are they actually going to trade for someone over Castellanos? So they played every single game? Probably not. But we'll see what the Phils have to do here. And I guess a lot of it depends on how long Realmuto's out, and how that dictates their trade strategy at the deadline.
Exactly. Yes. I could see them trying to aim higher than Rojas if possible at the trade deadline, and like he would look great in a bench role where they can use his speed, use his defense, but not have to use his bat all the time, or a part-time role, something like that.
Round 25. Jose Caballero is the most valuable hitter in that round, and he's been very valuable. And Hector Neris, who is now closing for the Cubs. If you held on to him, boy, what a windfall so far.
Yeah, for sure. Caballero kind of flies in the face of everything I just said about Rojas, because Caballero is a better base stealer than Rojas. Hitting for a little better average, but mostly he's just a better base stealer. So instead of just being like a usable base stealer, he's an elite base stealer so far, who could finish, right up, maybe not in Ellie De La Cruz territory, but right up near the top of the league in steals. I still, with some of his teams, like, I don't know how in some teams he'd be helping them a lot. In other teams that he may not. These steals may be gravy because they came on your bench, and he's a bit of a one category guy. And then Hector Neris, I don't know. I don't think he's going to be the Cubs closer for that long. He doesn't pitch that well.
Yeah, he's just there. So, but again, that's the thing. Possession is pretty important, though, as far as that. Yeah. List likes to say possession is 9/10 of the law.
Yeah.
He does have it.
Yeah. I mean, with Neris, like, he's got a nice 2.63 RA, but the 1.46 whip, almost as many walks as strikeouts. This doesn't really seem like, unless he turns all that around, which he has been a little better lately at not walking batters. Like, some of those walks come earlier in the season. I don't know. I could just see the Cubs, if they're hanging around, they're an easy candidate for bullpen help at the deadline. I feel like they have starting pitchers. Back end bullpen help, I think, is the easy fix for them, and it could actually be a closer. Maybe they won't buy in. Like, maybe the Cubs won't really push this year, but if they do, to me, that's an easy fix.
Eddie Buzz asks who closes for the Cubs otherwise there. And that is a good question. I mean, I think you can make a case for Mark Leiter if you're looking internally. He's had his chances a little bit the last couple of years. They don't really seem to like him in that role. 28 holds last year, 9 so far this year. So I could see that.
It'd be
I think
lighter. Yeah, it's lighter or no, or they just. This is why they've got a closer with almost a 1-to-1 K to walk ratio, who's
yeah.
still their closer, because maybe lighter. Other than that, there's not really a lot of great options.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So Elzalay, by the way, is on the 60-day IL.
Yeah.
So he is playing catch from 60 feet. We had an update today on that. He's returned. Elzalay is not eligible until mid-July, though. So it's not going to be that. I think, the Cubs, who are 7 games out behind the Brewers right now, along with the Reds and the Cardinals, and the Pirates are 7.5 out. They're all basically 3 games, 4 games under 500. I mean, they got to show a sign of life before they go ahead and go and make that move from elsewhere. If only the Cubs still had a guy like Jeremiah Estrada. Oh wait, they did have him. They don't have him anymore. Sorry, Sarah Sanchez there. But yeah, that was that's something they don't have anymore. And with Estrada, he could never stay healthy. So I understand what happened there, but still.
For sure.
And by the way, relievers like bloom elsewhere all the time. Like you look at the Dodgers, for instance. There, they got Evan Phillips for nothing from the Marlins, and that happens all the time. So I don't even want to castigate the Cubs too badly there, because that's what happens with short sample sizes. That's what goes. Let's move on to the next round, so we don't have to belabor that point anymore. Masyn Winn and Erick Fedde in round 24, the hitter and pitcher with the best value.
Yeah, Masyn Winn flies in the face, I guess, of my boring veteran conversation, because he's a young player who had a cup of coffee last year and didn't do anything with it. I'm not sure where things will go with Winn. I think that they could still go south. Like, he's had a 361 BABIP so far this year. Like, that thing comes down about 50, 60 points. All of a sudden, he's like a 250, 240 hitter with no real power. I'm not totally willing to say that like Masyn Winn's going to end up being a good pick.
I'm going to go ahead and say he will.
Okay.
The power has happened recently. He also is a really strong defender. He's pretty fast, so he's going to add some stolen base value, I think, in the long run. And I think we knew going in that the playing time was going to be there. He's a good defender, and the Cardinals really don't have a shortstop option beyond him, especially with Edmund being out long term. But even before that, I felt like Winn was pretty safe for playing time wise. We're driving to Vegas for the main event. That's one that Scott Jensen and I, kind of, and Vlad Sedler and Tim Schuler, the 4 of us, we kind of go through endgame guys, and that was a guy we identified that we liked. So I do have him in a couple of leagues. I think I'm still buying on him.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that was just my thought. And he has had some leadoff opportunities lately. So if I want to give him a positive thing, like most of his opportunities this season have come in the bottom 3 spots of the lineup, but he's had some leadoff opportunities lately. And that lineup has been so disappointing that, like, if he could keep hitting 300, like, why not? He's a young player with a bit of speed. And if he could keep hitting 300, why not have him hit at the top of the lineup? Right. I know that they're hanging around in a wild card race, so they're going to keep trying to win, but pun intended, but why not keep Masyn?
I like the pause there too, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. Why not keep Masyn at the start of the lineup? He's probably gives, as long as he's hitting 300, he probably gives them their best chance to win.
Indeed. The pitcher Erick Fedde pitched very well yesterday, and unfortunately the bullpen couldn't hold it. Michael Kopech was terrible. And then they had the walk-off home run, grand slam home run by Cal Raleigh, but Fedde pitched very well, and he's pitched well all year. 310, 116, 77 to 23 K to walk in 81 innings. This is a guy that resurrected his career after spending just 1 year in the KBO.
Yeah, and I think, man, it would do wonders for him. He does have 4 wins in 14 starts, but it would do wonders to get him off the White Sox. Like, their bullpen was part of the problem last night as far as getting a win. And I think it'll happen. Like, I think there's a really good chance he gets traded this summer. He's on a 2-year contract. There's no way the White Sox are going to be competitive next season. Like, they're way too far away. There's totally a chance that Fedde could go back to being a poor pitcher at any point. So why not? If his ERA is still in the 3s in July, like the White Sox have to move him. and get whatever they can for him. And there'll be teams out there who could use him. Like he's starting, he's giving length. There'll be teams out there who could use him. So I could see his fantasy value even staying the same or even improving a bit if he gets traded to a better team.
And I also think it's the White Sox, yes, they saw the potential in him, but it's out of line with all of his major league numbers.
Yep.
I know he's changed his pitch mix. He's maybe added velocity. Is this sustainable though? I think that's actually a really good concern. Of course, other teams probably going to see that and not give him the full value that they want out of this too. He is throwing not appreciably harder than he did earlier in his career. It's just a half a mile an hour faster than 2022. I think you got to cash in on this, but I also think other teams realize that they're cashing in on him.
And I think if you have him in fantasy, like, I don't think you can cash in on him. Like, I just don't think you're going to get that much. Like, he wasn't highly regarded, hence the spot in our article and or in this conversation. He's on the White Sox right now, and we have to accept him as that. His numbers are good, but not special. And there's a lot of pitching out there. So I feel like if you have him, you just ride this, use him for most of his starts.
I'd agree.
Or maybe you put him in a trade. Like maybe you want to upgrade. Maybe full circle. Me trying to be creative. Maybe you're the JT Realmuto owner, and you can trade him for a $5 catcher or something like that. Like you're just like, hey, this is a usable starting pitcher for another team, and I'll take a catcher from you. But I don't think you can get a lot for him. I don't think you can sell high on him.
Right. I think you should try at least. And maybe there is the one guy in your league that you can do that with. Mm-hmm. I don't think you should be like a predator either when it comes to the trade market, but still, so don't offer like outlandish trades involving Fedde, but I would try to cash in at the same time. It's a fine line. Round 23, Brice, Turang, and Brenton, Doyle, no pitcher. Both big wins on the hitting side, though.
Yeah, just not great pitchers or not a lot of pitchers in this round. One thing I want to note when we look at dollar values, so from round 24 down, every player we've talked about is a sub $20 player. Caballero was 17. Everybody else is 11, 10, and single digits. All of a sudden, it's interesting just mapping out the draft, and we'll see where it's at by the end of the year. But now at round 23, it starts to change and massively, and we start seeing $20 and more and better players. And we didn't have any of those so far from round 24 down. So you can really see a huge difference as far as the value drop in a draft. Like almost like maybe you take the boring guys in the bench rounds because the breakouts weren't really there anyways. They're actually before the bench rounds. Right. Brice, Turang, and Brenton Doyle are both really interesting breakout players in that, like Turang. I thought Turang was a little undervalued in draft season. That being said, I don't really have much of him. But last year, like he stole 26 bases in 404 at bats. Like there was an easy path to see if this guy could just play more, that he could steal 30 something bases this year. Now it turns out he's playing more and hitting a lot better. So, everything has clicked for him. He's hitting leadoff now. Their offense is good. Like if he holds this, he's going to be one of the best value picks this year.
Exactly. So, and the thing is, playing time again was kind of like, okay, he's got a good lead on playing time. More so than Doyle, who was like the guy that it was totally a fantasy yo-yo last year. Pick up, drop, pick up, drop, pick up, drop. That was kind of like, okay, they're home, pick them up. Oh, 7 games on the road, drop. I need that spot. He wasn't even good enough just to park on your bench last year, and he was an average killer. He's been better there this year.
Yeah, I think, like much better. His BABIP's really high. It's 355. With StatCast, his XBA is 264. So, but even if Doyle hit 264 going forward, and that's what you got from him, like that's still probably with an okay walk rate. Like he still probably keeps him at the top of the lineup if he's there now, like at least against righties. Like it probably keeps him where he is. And then you still get the steals. So, and you still get the runs. So he actually hasn't even scored runs at a really high rate. Like last month, he scored 9. Like it's really remarkable actually for a guy with speed and hit a 347 OBP last month. Like he could actually be doing a lot better. He's like now, especially if he stays in a lot of leadoff spot roles, like he could score runs at a lot higher rate. So maybe maybe the run scoring comes up, the pace on run scoring comes up as the batting average maybe drops at some point.
For sure.
Doyle, I think Doyle's probably less safe than Turang. Just the Rockies lineup can be a dud at times. I don't know. He's scoring a lot of runs.
Times.
Yeah, and Doyle is different in that Doyle is hitting 264 with a 357 BABIP. So Doyle's hitting. I know Doyle could probably have a decent BABIP, half the games in Coors, things like that, but he's hitting 264 with the high BABIP. Turang's hitting 300 with the high BABIP. Turang has margin. Doyle could go back to hitting 220 or something at some point. He hit 203 last year. Like, yeah, there's a lot of steals there. The occasional homer, he's totally worth rostering, and his 39 runs already in a not great Rockies lineup feels a little unsustainable too.
On the positive for Doyle, his K percentage has dropped from 35 to 27%.
Yep.
Walk rate has risen from 5.1 to 9.4%. That's what you need from a leadoff type of guy, a speed guy. You need to find ways to get on base. So at least he's got that going for him, but I do agree with you. There's definitely some regression risk here. Home and away, I mean, it's not even close. 929 OPS at home, 582 on the road. So there's still like all that BABIP luck is happening at home too, which duh, of course it is. I mean, it's Coors Field. I mean, we know this, but still the degree of it is rather stark. All right. We're not going to get through all these there.
No, but we can get through. Yeah. Maybe half of them or something.
All right.
Yeah.
Alex Verdugo in round 22 is the best hitter value. Lukewarm at $11. Okay, there you go. I covered that. Luis Gil and Garrett Crochet, though. These are our two big wins here in the round 22. Now we're talking about pitcher wins here. Gil, I haven't been able to trade in AL Tout Wars. Some of that is on me because I haven't been I was traveling last weekend. Was not able to be online a whole lot, so I'll have to wait another week on that. But I gotta say, I'm getting turned down on offers. Like I offered him straight up for Riley Green. Howard Bender said he was going to lose too much in the hitting categories. Well, I mean, that's kind of the point. We're trading pitching stats or hitting stats. So, it's tough. But otherwise, it's like I'm trying to find people that buy into him now that we know Gil's going to be in the rotation the rest of the year.
Yeah, exactly. And so you've got Gil at $29. You got Garrett Crochet at $21. You really see in the next few rounds that we're going to talk about. So basically from about rounds 18 to 22 this year, there were some massive values at starting pitcher. Like this was the place to go shopping. It wasn't the bench. It wasn't, I always think of yellow, like when we see the grid at the end, like it wasn't filling your bench spots with yellow this year. It was actually filling and I don't know if that's like I didn't do enough of a study to know if that's like an every year takeaway. It's probably not, but this year, and this year isn't over, but this year so far, that was the place to fill your roster with pitchers was say from around round 17, 18 through to the end of the starters portion was to get a lot of pitchers in there. I think with the strikeout rate, I think Gil can be like, and the support of the Yankees can be very, very valuable the rest of the way. I'm a little less certain on Garrett Crochet, the other good value pick from this round.
Some concern about Gil and how long he'll pitch into the season. He's thrown 75 innings already this year. He hasn't thrown a lot more than that in a given season. Not in 2019, which means nothing now, but it was 96 last year. Obviously, he was recovering from Tommy John, which he had done in 2022. So we're talking about a guy who I think he barely got over 100 innings in 2021. How many more innings can he throw? That's a question. But Clark Schmidt's out right now. And that's the thing that opens the door to even when Garrett Cole comes back. There's no way you could take Gil out of the rotation at this point in time.
No chance.
The Dodgers are not the Marlins. They're not the Strasburg era Nationals either. This is a team that expects to win, and they want Gil to help them win right now, especially as Juan Soto could be, they want to be able to re-sign Juan Soto, but he's a free agent at the end of the year. This is a built to win now type of team, and I think Gil will keep on pitching.
Yeah, I think so too. So I think I think he stays in the Yankees rotation. And again, it's the old Nando DeFino. These things have a way of sorting themselves out. Like Garrett Cole will come back. At some point, Clark Schmidt will come back, but then who knows? Stroman will be out or Rodon will be out. It'll all. Maybe he'll even spends a little time on the IL himself just to limit some innings.
Or they go 6-man with Cody Poteet.
Yeah. Maybe he'll just has just a bit of a tired shoulder or something at some point or something like that, and just find.
But is he going to be the same after a shutdown? I always am wary of
there's that
too. When that happens.
Yeah,
but
there's that too for sure.
Yeah, I'm just talking people that are listening that might be trading with me out of a trade. And that's bad. That's bad juju there. So let's move on. But Crochet is awesome so far. I'd love to see him in a different uniform. See what happens there.
Yeah, I think that's less likely than Fedde, just because he doesn't have the same 2-year contract situation that Fedde has. Like he'd be further from free agency. Like still 3 options remaining. Yeah, I don't know if they'll trade him or if he ends up being more of an off-season trade at some point. Might not even be this off-season, but at some point whenever he does go. But for sure, he's gonna. We saw the Padres rumors recently. That would be pretty huge for him because the strikeout rate is outstanding. In a season when a lot of pitchers don't have an awesome strikeout rate, his strikeout rate is outstanding.
Round 20, round 21, excuse me. We're still at 21. I think we'll go through like 19 or something here today. Round 21 saw a lot of bargains. Jordan Westburg, Brent Rooker on the hitting side, 24 and $19 respectively before yesterday's games. And on the pitching side, Tanner Houck and Jared Jones. Houck has been so ridiculously good.
Yeah.
Jones has been very good, slowing down a little bit maybe lately, but still both great finds this late in the draft.
Yeah, so I guess we could start with the hitters. Westburg is like, I feel like he's almost like a better version of what we were talking about with Luis Garcia and Brandon Marsh, and he's in a really good lineup. Not that Marsh isn't, but like his value is tied to he's played well, but 10 homers, 6 steals. Like it's a little bit of not being special in any one area, contributing across the board, 279 average, but just a lot of runs and a lot of RBIs, like 39 RBIs, 34 runs scored. For someone who mostly hits in the bottom half of the lineup, like I think he can sustain this. I don't know if he can totally. He was at his best in April. Like he's cooled off a little bit since then. I don't know. I think maybe we've seen the best spurt of Jordan Westburg's season, but he could still be good the rest of the way.
My early good start in the main event was in part fueled by Westburg, Houck, and Colton Cowser, who I actually drafted when he made the team. But I am worried, and Westburg made an error yesterday, so I'm colored in that. And he went he only 0 for 5 with an error. It was a tough day for him, but he has been. The thing I like is he's batting high in the order still, though, too. Like I don't feel threatened as much about him playing time wise when they call up other prospects as I am about Cowser, who's already started to lose some time here and there. At the same time, I mean, yeah, it's always a risk, but Westburg was a big prospect before he got the call last year. And I think people remember last year and kind of tend to think, oh yeah, well, he wasn't a big prospect if he struggled so much. And it was a little bit of playing time risk there. But, I don't know.
Westburg's not getting replaced. I'm with you on that. Like, again, if he maintains an OPS around 800, like you're not calling up a prospect to replace an 800 OPS guy. Like that's your spot. So I think he'll be good the rest of the way. I don't think he'll win your league, but I think he'll continue to contribute. I'm less worried about Westburg than I am about Rooker. I think Rooker, like the power's real, but like he's got a 373 BABIP with like a humongous strikeout rate. Like he could easily go back to hitting even worse. He hit 246 last year, which is actually fine. I think that he could hit worse than that the rest of the way. He could end up hitting 230 or something like that the rest of the way, 225. So I'm a little worried about that. I do think the power is real. I think Rooker is going to hit 30 plus home runs this year.
He hit 30 last year. I don't know if he gets there. He's at 13 now. He's I guess some of this is playing time. He's like Rooker is perfect because a perfect example of being wary because the A's could trade him very easily.
Yep.
The team could use him as a platoon guy. And which means he'll be a good ad for another team and yet still be worth less for us because he's just not going to maybe not play as much. He's a huge strikeout machine. I mean, I get that he's still hitting for average at 269. So that's still helpful. Last 21 days, it's 242. Last 14 days, it's 213. You can see the trend there. He's striking out more and hitting for fewer homers lately. I mean, in the last 21 days, he's had 2 homers. So that
slowing down for sure.
Yet we know that power is still latent. It's still there. It's just maybe you need to put him in a situation there where, he's in a better spot. And he could be the type of guy like a Jorge Soler was for the Braves, where he goes off with that new team. He's actually hit better against righties this year than lefties. But in the past, it's been pretty neutral. So I don't know. Maybe he wouldn't be a big time platoon guy after all. I was thinking he might be a platoon guy and a bad side of a platoon, but maybe that's not the case. I don't know. Worth exploring a little bit. He also doesn't have appreciable home road splits either.
Yeah, absolutely. And for, a lot of the reasons like you mentioned, I think, and because power's down,
Mm-hmm.
even if you worry about the batting average regressing, like I can see, for example, he would fit in really nicely on my Blue Jays, who are 26th in baseball in home
Yeah,
runs. And it's a big lament in Toronto is where are the home runs this year? Like they could really use those. Tampa Bay is last in baseball in home runs. Like if the Rays want to try to
that's amazing.
hang around in the wild card race, like Brent Rooker kind of feels like a Rays guy, although Rays don't usually trade for guys at their peak. Although I still don't think he'd fetch that big of a return. But there's teams out there. The Tigers are low in home runs. Maybe they would consider him. So there is a chance he would be on a different team. Now that being said, all of the teams that I just mentioned, I don't know if they really change his value over having played on the A's. Like the A's are behind all those teams in runs scored, but actually not by that much. So
Yeah.
maybe the Tigers a bit, but not Toronto and not Tampa. So it doesn't really change his value much. I think it's going to be all about him. If he's a 250 hitter the rest of the way, he's super valuable. If he's a 220 hitter, then he's a one category guy.
Yeah. I'd love to see the Jays actually trade for him. By the way, I think I mentioned this. Rays are sneaky like sell candidates. Just
Absolutely.
lost
I
four in
think
a
they
row.
will. Yeah. And
I just,
they're a smart forward thinking organization that I think doesn't get
yeah,
wrapped up in hoopla. So I could see them. I think they will sell this year.
yeah.
Reload.
Uh, Pitcher side, huge deals here. Tanner Houck and Jarrett Jones. Tanner Houck, I actually started him this week despite he's got a terrible matchup this week, and I'm still going to go with it here at home against the Phillies. Phillies and Fenway's super scary, but I'm going to use Houck every time now.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, he's over the hump there, where you just use him every time out. Obviously, the home run rate's not going to continue. He's only allowed two all
Mm-hmm.
season, so that's the big reason that the ERA is so low. But his BABIP's 266. That's not super low. Like it's in the realm of something that's sustainable. He's another one of these pitchers who has figured out just don't walk people in this environment of low BABIPs and low home run rates. Like don't give teams free base runners. Make them earn them. Make them beat you by putting the ball in play. So only 15 walks so far in 13
Yeah,
starts. And if he keeps doing that, even if the home run rate increases, he's probably still a three flat ERA pitcher, or maybe even a little below that. And if he doesn't walk people and then the whip is going to stay down. So
I,
it's
I
going to be
am worried about the home run to fly ball regression. I
it's going
will
to
say that.
change for sure. But if going forward, like he's a 191 ERA, if going forward he could be a 291 ERA or a 3 ERA and a 1 whip, a 1.05 whip, like holy, that's even
Right.
in this pitching environment, it's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3.7 home run to fly ball rate. So that is like
It's
the one thing you're
gonna
kind
double
of,
or triple at some point.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Um, He might even be a 3.5 ERA after that happens, and I'm still
Mhm.
still okay with it. But
Mhm.
just be aware that is probably a risk factor. He's throwing slightly slower, but getting more strikeouts, despite getting less swing and miss. He's getting a ton of called third strikes. It looks like to me,
Mhm.
which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's not a pejorative, but
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
it is. He's probably running a little lucky, and yet I'm still starting him all the time. Jared Jones also went in this round. Rare that we have two really big contributors there. Jones, the question for him is he and Skeens, that they're going to be like, and Mitch Keller, by the way, who's throwing harder than he did in the past. Something to watch for there.
Mhm.
But I mean, in the past, than he was in April. In May and June, he started throwing a lot harder. So that's good news. But Jared Jones, so lately. If you look like last 30 days, 428, 139, for instance, there. And I'm granted, we're cherry picking by picking 30. It could be like 35 and be a little bit better, but still a little bit of slowdown there. The K rate slowed down a little bit as well. Well, and he gets Coors Field in his next start.
Yeah. So you're sitting him for that one. I would sit him for that one no matter what.
If I had a
Uh,
choice, yeah.
Even if he was pitching a little better than this, I would sit him for that one. Yeah. As you said, slowing down a bit. How many innings he throws will matter. The Pirates are hanging around kind of in the wild card race. Uh,
Hanging around.
in the not very impressive NL Central, the Brewers have a 7-game lead on the next team. The Pirates are in last, and with a win tonight, could move into second.
Yeah,
They're half a game behind three
right.
teams. So the Pirates, in a way, are hanging around. In another way, I think they'd be wise to not really consider this year, like not try to
Hmm.
consider just going ass backwards into the last playoff spot, which right now is a 500 Padres team. Like just prepare for the future, when Jared Jones hits an innings limit that you think is appropriate for him, shut him down. Whatever that is, they decide that's going to be this year. Especially if he starts to be what we've seen. Like, okay, how about this? I'll set an over/under from this point forward of a 4 ERA for Jared Jones. What do you want to take?
I think I'll go 405. I'd say,
yeah, a little bit over, right?
Over.
Because that's kind of like the last few starts, as you mentioned: 6 innings, 3 runs; 6 innings, 3 runs; 4 1/3, 5 runs; 6 shutout; 5 innings, 2 runs; 3 runs actually, 2 earned. There's been some unearned runs in there. I don't know. He's, as you said, and the schedule in those starts has been fine. It hasn't been. He got a Dodgers start, but that was the best one. So. The schedule
Pirates counterpoint. Pirates are a game out of the last wild card spot and a game and a half out of the second wild card spot.
Yeah.
The NL is like this cesspool of mediocrity this year.
Yeah.
It's
those
the Braves and everybody else. Padres are the number 2 wild card at 35 and 35. The Giants are the 3rd wild card at 33 and 34. Half game over the Reds, Cubs, and Cardinals. 1 game over the Pirates. Game and a half over the Diamondbacks. 2 games over the Nationals. 3.5 games over the Mets. No one's going to trade away except for the pace-eating Rockies and the Miami Marlins. So
give me Brenton Doyle and then watch his numbers regress when he leaves Coors Field, if anyone's dumb enough to do that.
Yes. But that's just.
But maybe if no one else is selling, maybe some team like the Pirates will. They'll say, "Fine, we will. We'll take the values." Yeah. Like we're not ready yet to really do any damage.
Exactly. Let's do one more round and then we'll sign off for today. Round 20, Jake Cronenworth in a bounce back season, and Ranger Suarez. Suarez, who at points has been the most valuable pitcher, period, so far this year. Not even for the value, but for just all pitchers. And in fact, if you use our tool, he still is. He is ahead of Tarek Skubal. Gill, by the way, is number 3 and Houck is number 4, which tells you something about how pitching's gone this year. I know, generally speaking, I saw some pushback from Jeff Zimmerman, among others, talking about how, and he makes a good point. I don't want to argue against his point, but getting, the majority of good pitching has been early. It's just weird to see 3 of the top 4 have not been early pitchers.
Absolutely. And looking at Jeff's chart, and again, like it's Jeff's chart, so I'm not going to get too into it, but I read it and I looked at it in great detail. The aces, the first he separated by groups of 50 picks. The first 50 picks actually have been great. So like I don't know the story, but then the next 50 compared to the next 50 compared to the next 50 and the next 50 all the way down to Ranger Suarez group of 50, like are more even. There are still advantages to some of them in whip and strikeouts, but more even in ERA, very even in ERA and
as a class, I think that's the point. You had to cherry pick and get it right. Like, is there a unifying trend which would help us identify Ranger Suarez, Tanner Houck, and Luis Heel over those in their class? Remember, there's been a couple of those rounds where we've had no positive value guys. So, I mean, Just Point is not wrong. You had to get it right, and maybe you had to stop at round 23 to get that right. But point is, there has been
what's really happened this year is there's been fine pitchers from say rounds 6 to 15, 6 to 20, almost 6 to 15 more. There's been like a bunch of fine pitchers, Barrios, Keller, whatever, Brian Wu, like they've been fine. Gavin Stone, like some of them have been really good at times, but overall they've been fine. There just hasn't been massive pitcher values this year so far in those rounds. The season's not half over. We'll see where it goes from here. But you have a handful of pitchers who have been better from say the round 18, 19, 20, 21 group than the ones but the aces, Zach Wheeler, Burns, like they were great. So it's almost like if in hindsight you could have built your staff, you would have taken 1 or 2 of those aces and then you would have waited and you would not have gotten into the round 10 pitchers, the round 12 pitchers, because there haven't been very many of them who were, a lot of them are just meh and maybe even worse than meh. And then you got these guys like Ranger Suarez and Tanner Houck later on.
Right.
Yeah. So anyways, back to Suarez. I don't know that if I'm an expert on the takeaway on Suarez, other than like, I don't know. I did not see this coming at all. Like we have years. No. He did have, like we talked about with some of these other pitchers, he did have one amazing special season, 2021, like a 1.36 ERA and a 1.00 whip in a season with plenty of offense and only 106 innings, but still, and a lot of them were in relief, but he had one amazing year. Then after that, he had 2 very meh years. And then this year, he's been awesome. The 10 wins are obviously a huge reason why he's ranked so high, but 181 ERA, 0.85 whip. Like Houck, he's been a little bit lucky on the home run rate, but he's another guy really reduced his walk rate,
Yeah.
making players earn their way on base.
Yeah, that's right.
Hmm.
That's right. So that has been really impressive, and
Hmm.
it's just I am noticing one thing. You don't necessarily have to throw hard. I mean, Garrett Crochet
Hmm.
obviously is a hard thrower, and that's worked out well. Tanner Houck isn't really a hard thrower. Ranger Suarez isn't a hard thrower, so it hasn't. Jared Jones, on the other hand, has been. I'm just saying though, it hasn't necessarily been the hard throwers that have been always your source of value here.
Yep. Yeah, that's a really good point. And there's just, I don't know, like, again, this isn't like a multi-year study, but there's just these pitchers, Suarez, Houck, Heel, Crochet. If we had time, we'd go up a little bit early in the draft and talk Seth Lugo and Jack Flaherty. These pitchers are all a little more desirable than the ones who were left for the bench rounds. And that's
Mm-hmm.
where the breakouts came from. Like, we didn't see Ranger Suarez breaking out like this, and we didn't see Tanner Houck breaking out like this, but we did still think that they were more valuable and better breakout candidates than all the pitchers that we took after round 23.
Sure.
All
Sure.
of whom, and we were right, like they were. So that wasn't the place to find the breakouts. We didn't think Suarez was going to do this, but we at least thought he was going to be okay. That's why he was in round 20. That's why he was picked for your lineup,
And
not as
we
your
knew
bench
he's going
player.
to be he will have a spot and
Yeah,
on a team that at least is
that's
going to be
good.
pretty good. And it
Yeah,
turns out the Phillies have been more than pretty good.
yeah.
And that also tends to help too. And obviously any player raters are going to incorporate wins, and wins are
Hmm.
still, I mean, you have to pitch well to get wins for the most part.
Hmm.
You have to be deep enough into games to get wins, but it's also run support, defensive support, et cetera, et cetera. The quality of the team matters a big amount, a big amount towards that there. So yeah, those are some of the other factors. Hey, but we should also mention Jake Cronenworth in his renaissance this year, because I think he deserves certain mention, and one that
Hmm.
I haven't found myself talking about Cronenworth a lot. Maybe others out there have. I will rapidly apologize for not consuming every podcast out there, but or show. But I mean, this is the guy that this is the 2021 version of Cronenworth that got the Padres excited in the first place. There, not what we've seen the last year and a half.
Yeah, I think the problem with Cronenworth from talking about perspective is even the good versions of Jake Cronenworth aren't that exciting. He's
No,
almost like
they
a
aren't.
better, like a little bit of a better version of Alex Verdugo, who we skimmed over for good reason.
Yes,
Um,
that
Cron-
the infield version.
yeah, like, and one thing about the Padres is they always hit Jake Cronenworth high in the lineup, even when he wasn't playing well. Like, he had a season a couple years ago where he hit 239 with a 722 OPS. Those are not good numbers. And he had 88 runs and 88 RBIs because they hit him high in the lineup. So
Right.
even not playing well, he managed. Now last year he really bottomed out. He was also injured for the first time last year and missed a substantial chunk of time. And people were just, I think, bored with him. He doesn't steal bases, doesn't hit for a high average, doesn't hurt it, but doesn't hit for a high average. And people were just like, oh, I am so over Jake Cronenworth. And here he comes. And here come the RBIs again. Like, he's hit better this year, but he certainly
Mm-hmm.
hasn't been awesome. And he's got 45 RBIs. Like, he's something like 12th or something like that in baseball. Yeah, 12th in baseball in RBIs, and
To your point, he's hit between third and sixth all season long. No
a
lower
lot
than
of
sixth.
third. Yeah.
Yep.
So they love hitting him high in the lineup. I don't know. One thing, to put a bow on some of these guys, like, there's a lot of veteran cromulent hitters here who just maybe are having a little better, that we've talked about, who are having a little better season than we expected. And maybe some who have done it in the past, and have bounced back. But Cronenworth, Verdugo, going back to when we were talking on your bench about Brandon Marsh, Luis Garcia, Ryan O'Hearn, like, there's a lot of, like, we're not talking about rookies very much I know it has been a bad year for rookie hitters, but
Mm-hmm.
we did talk a bit about Masyn Winn. We did talk a bit about Johan Rojas, but they actually have two of the lowest earned auction values of all the players that we've talked about today.
Yep.
So the cromulent guys in the 20 something rounds on hitting have come through. Some of them have come through.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, a lot of interesting stuff about
Hmm.
Cronenworth too. He's 2 games away from qualifying at second base again next year too, and that second eligibility is very nice too.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Especially in a year where corner infield has been so bad, and second base, I've been okay this year, and middle infield, I've been okay this year. But yeah, having middle and corner is really valuable. I have no Cronenworth. Maybe that's why I haven't talked about him either.
Mhm.
I had some last year and was really left a bad taste in my mouth. Like I was expecting the bounce back last year, and it didn't come.
Yeah, and maybe that's kind of a lesson here for us too. Is kind of, the contract kind of guaranteed him chances to return and to keep playing and return that value too, because they did sign him to that contract. BABIP last year 267, 290 this year. Usually 290, 300 is about average for a player. So that just shows maybe he was a little unlucky as well. So there's a lot of things there that kind of maybe point to it. You're not going to get a ton of bags from Cronenworth, but not a total zero though either. Although it's almost zero this year, only one bag so far. But
it's like the difference between the good Cronenworth and the bad Cronenworth is just like maybe a few homers and just like a batting average that's more like
30 points of batting average. Yep.
Yeah, like 265 instead of 235.
Yep.
But when you hit high in the lineup, like that matters. Like as far as run scoring goes.
For sure. Maybe not super sustainable here, but especially as he's in his age 30 season now. So maybe there's a chance of a decline here. Man, he's
a bit of a sneaky old guy. Like I feel like Jake Cronenworth is like, he's only really played 4 years. He's played 5, but the first year not much. Like, yeah, he's a bit of to me, he's a bit of a sneaky old guy. If you asked me before this podcast how old Cronenworth was, I would have said more like 27.
Yeah, me too.
Like,
Me too.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, there you go. Don't necessarily target him in keeper leagues unless it's kind of like an expiring contract cromulent guy this year.
Sure.
But not a long-term property for sure. All right, we'll stop here. We'll hit like the teens next week because kind of gonna keep going through this there. Give some of these other guys maybe the motivation to try to do better so we can get some better values here in the future here, but we'll see about that. All right, that's a big thanks to everybody who tuned in the live stream for us today. Thanks to both Sorare and to Prize Picks for their sponsorship. I'm Jeff Erickson. He's Fred Zinkie. If you like this podcast, please smash that like and subscribe button. Please go check us out at RotoWire, rotowire.com/pod. And again, we really appreciate everybody listening. Thanks for listening. Take care.